Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call, and today I am joined by Jeremiah Plyer, the hunter featured in the recent Gritty film Wild Arrow, my good friend, and he is the owner of the Wild Arrow Archery Shop. And today we're sitting down with him, his wife, Thalissa, and his good buddies, Mark and Tito. And on this episode, we sit down in the bow shop and we're breaking down the true story behind the film, a little behind the scenes. We talk about the highs and the lows of the hunt and the reality of chasing a once-in-a-lifetime bighorn sheep with a bow. If you want to hear what this experience was really like and how Jeremiah got it done, stick around. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call, and today I'm at the Wild Arrow Archery Shop, and this is take 2 of a podcast about the Wild Arrow film with Jeremiah Plyer. We got your wife, Thalissa, here. We've got Mark and Tito, who were there in camp with you, helping you get this sheep. And we've been talking for, I don't know, an hour, 30 minutes, 20, I'm not sure, but none of that got recorded. So we're going to...
that was a good dry run, man.
Yeah, wasn't it?
He planned this. You know he planned
Let's
this.
get on topic, okay? Like, I felt like it's drifting a little bit there.
It's because we don't know what we're doing.
All right. For those who don't know, we put out the movie, Wild Arrow, and the feedback has been great. I'm actually really happy with that film. It was only 5 days. It was a short film.
Right.
But it was a once in a lifetime sheep tag. And we sort of just, cruised down there. Brad went and filmed it. I wasn't able to go. I wanted Brad to film the first 5 days, and then I'd show up on day 6 and take over. And Brad was just there for insurance because thought for sure Jeremiah cannot kill a sheep in 5 days.
We found a really dumb one.
Yeah. And yet you did, and he killed a beautiful, beautiful ram with your bow. It was epic, and but there wasn't a ton of footage there.
Yeah, that was.
But I really wanted to make people care, because I don't know about you, but until this film, and maybe you were always this way, but I'm not into sheep until now. Now I'm I got to do a sheep hunt. I got to. But before that, I was like, I'll never do it. It's too expensive. It's not for me. But now I'm like, no, I got to find a way. At least one sheep, I don't care which one, but I got to do one. But, I felt like I want people to relate to it more, understand how special sheep are. They really are. So I wanted you to see sheep and really learn about them and all that into the film. And I also wanted an archery component in there. That really, because I saw how you decapitated the poor ram with a really bad shot. Let's be frank.
Yeah, I'll own it. That's okay. That's part of bow hunting.
No, the shot didn't go as you had planned.
Right.
But I've been there. We've all been there. Anybody who has bow hunted long enough has been there. And you know who never really criticizes these things? Killers. Guys that have bow hunted for a long time and take a lot of animals, because every single one of us has had instances like this. So, but knowing that, I was like, people need to have impressed upon them throughout the course of the film what a difficult undertaking this really is. And really, then by the time that the shot goes down, they really understand the monumental achievement that it was. Not just in terms, what are all the stakes? This is a tag most people will never get. Even for you, it's pretty lucky.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then it's with a bow and arrow, and then you got in range, and then you killed a killer ram. All of it is kind of miraculous, which is what inspires, right? If you just go out and you kill a 4-point buck on the Wasatch Front, it's like, okay, cool. That does not have the same stakes, the same things tied to it as this does, which makes it so much more inspiring and interesting. And so as we put it together and brought it to the public, it was cool. And to see you succeed, have Thalissa there, your buddies, it was a special hunt.
Yeah, it was a great hunt. And the fact that you came and filmed it, that we get to relive those memories, to us is priceless, right? It's and to capture that, trying to explain to someone how the hunt went down is hard. They had, sometimes when you tell someone, they paint that picture in their mind, but when you can show them on the film, now they know what we were going through there. And so, to that point, Brent, what you created was a documentary. And I think it's honestly one of the best films you've ever put out there. And I've seen a lot of comments from people saying that exact thing. And if it would have been just a film of me chasing a sheep around the mountain, it would have been pretty boring, But the way that you tied everything in and the history and the culture and everything around sheep hunting. And, I told you that from day one that, bow hunting's cool. And there's a lot of guys that will just watch it because it's a archery film and bow hunting, which guys love. But there's going to be a disconnect from a lot of people because it's a sheep, and to your point, not everybody gets to go hunt a sheep or even go on a sheep hunt. I mean, this was all of our first sheep hunt. I've never been on one before.
Yeah.
So
these things are also character driven too. People tune into YouTube to see somebody they know. Like I go to Meat Eater to watch Brunella.
Yeah.
Not the guy that I've never seen before.
Right.
But then over time, I like Clay Newcomb now. Or, like you can get drawn into another person, but it takes time. And so I knew there would be an uphill challenge too, getting people to take interest in someone they don't know.
Right.
But here's the thing. Everybody that knows Jeremiah Plyer, that has been to the Wilde Arrow Archery Shop, everybody that's known you over the years, it is character driven. Yeah. It is for those people, it's their guy.
Right.
Even more than their relationship with me. And so for that circle, this was a very important film and a meaningful film. So, dude, I get to be the hero of lots of films and be and the failure and the loser too. I've been both, but I get to be out there all the time. And I just like being able to tell other people's stories. Hello, friends. Pardon the interruption, but I have 2 quick announcements. I have a gritty movie night that I'm hosting on May 29th. Coming up soon. The details will be out soon, so look for that if you're interested. And second announcement is I've been working on a podcast with my brother Brent for a little over a year now. The podcast is called Dueling Pistols. And if you're into history, harrowing stories of adventure, and the outdoors, and you just want to have a good laugh, I think you're going to really enjoy this podcast. Here's a little taste of what we put together. I hope you dig it. You're listening to the Dueling Pistols podcast, where we read and discuss the stories of our past and explore some of the most wild adventures from modern history.
No, bro. George Washington said, stay strapped or get clapped, and I'm all about that. I ain't,
Floyd had split his surveying party into 3 groups.
Bro, you never split up. Never split up. You seen Scooby-Doo? Nothing good happens when the group splits.
As they tried to drag the canoe to the shore, Fanny Calloway beat him over the head with the paddle until it broke.
Good job, Fanny. When the man in front goes down, pick up his rifle and shoot.
I hate this guy.
Yeah?
I hate this guy. I want him dead. I want him to die and die a somewhat miserable death.
We ain't like the British. We dissed everything, including the accent.
One of the Shawnees killed that day was the son of the man who would become Boone's captor and adoptive father.
Wow. Bro, this is like a freaking soap opera. That is ridiculous. Does he have an evil twin that's going to pop out sometime too?
I like my stories, but I really like to showcase the others. Yeah. And your wife, I mean, she kind of makes a lot of people jealous. Like she kind of made a lot of men jealous. I'm watching this, and you're hiking through the canyon, you're supporting Jay, and it's just like there are a lot of men out there who want that from the woman they're with.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wish it was more common, but it's pretty rare.
It is. And one thing that she's done really well, she shares her love of archery and bow hunting, right? Like with your women's clinics and everything that she does. And so, she is just as driven as a bow hunter as any guy that comes into the shop. Like,
if not more.
Yeah. Like, she gets up every morning, works out, she shoots her bow every night. So she enjoys those adventures with me as much as I do with her. And it's been really fun to have her by my side for all these years doing that. But it used to be that she was keeping up with me, and now those roles have kind of reversed. I'm keeping up with her now. So,
dude, that hike to the recovery, you can see Jay like on his way down. Jeremiah, you're moving your way down, and you look fresh faced.
Yeah,
and then you get to the bottom, and it looks like someone beat you in a jiu-jitsu ring for like 2 hours or something. It's just like, woo, yeah. Felissa looks pretty fresh faced.
Yeah. Yeah, I just tell everybody my pack was heavier, which probably wasn't the case. But yeah, that was an intense night there.
Oh, dude, how many hours? I was telling this is not captured at all in the film because Brad didn't run the camera.
Yeah.
Which is, look, you're just trying to survive. There's batteries, but you guys spent the night there.
Right.
With a teepee right there on the hillside. But it took you it seemed like all night to get there.
Yeah. We just kept getting cliffed out. I mean, in that country, it is so cliffy and you can only see as far as your headlamp can take you.
Yep.
So we would work down, get cliffed out and have to come back. So what was really maybe a 1.5 mile walk felt like it turned into 5 miles of up and down and back and forth. And
you think it's the bottoms aren't as bad as they are.
Oh yeah.
But those little canyon bottoms are just nasty.
And I will tell you, I learned a good lesson on this hunt, like trying to trust like OnX or Gaia or whatever map system you're using. They are not that accurate in that country. Mm-hmm. We learned that lesson the hard way.
Well, it's all rocks that are blocking signals and satellites and stuff.
Yeah. Even topo lines you're trying to navigate the best you can in the dark and using that. And you're going, oh yeah, we can get through here. And
you get to it and it's a sheer cliff.
Yeah, sheer cliff. And you're
that's the one thing I really wish we saw more of that suffering.
Yeah.
Like all the grinding through the brush and everything. And then the camping there that night and, getting up in the morning and stuff. Wish we had that on film a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you guys were slight emergency trying to get camp set up.
Well, what had happened is we got to the bottom and we got stuck in this bottom. There was water in there and it was sheer cliff. You can't get out. You're committed. You're going, the water got so deep, it came over Phyllis's boots. So it's cold, we're in December. I think the temps were in the
other
teens.
thing. I failed to put the date, like that it was dead winter in the desert because it looks kind of warmish.
It kind of warmed up towards the day we killed, but there was a couple days, it snowed on us. I mean,
we woke up day 2 to snow.
Yeah. Well, the first night, we didn't have a heater. Everything in the trailer froze solid. Every water bottle, it was just super cold.
I needed to put the temperature on the film. I should have done that so people could feel. You were freezing when you were sitting there that one day, just waiting for that. And I remember showing it to my wife, and she's like, "Why is he cold?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I meant to do that. I missed it.
Yeah. Yeah. That night was rough. She's freezing and. Yeah, so she was a trooper, and she's like, we're here. We're not turning around now. Yeah.
That's unnerving, too, when your feet get that cold. So you got pitched up and then slept outside in the teepee there that night.
No, that was a fun night. And, yeah. That little titanium stove.
Did you guys fire up some wood?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Dude, isn't that makes you rethink all the years you've hunted without heat?
Yeah. That's almost a must have now. And I felt bad because these guys weren't really prepared to go do that with us. So we probably would have went in as a whole team that night, but not everybody had the backpacking gear and that kind of thing. And we had packed quite a bit of that thinking, there's just in case, because there was a couple areas in the unit that if we push come to shove towards the end of the hunt that I would have went into, but just to get into that country would have taken me 2 days just to get in there. And so we were kind of set up to do some of that backpacking, but
you guys were,
yeah,
you and Brad, we didn't bring any of our stuff because look, we're spotters. If you kill one, we'll come in and get it. But that's that.
Go in and kill them. Did you bring any ropes or lines or anything just in case?
Yeah, we had ropes, all that. And, luckily a customer of ours, he's a professional climber. I had his number on hand.
Yeah.
Because there's been guys on that hunt before that either they get cliffed out, get stuck, or even sheep die in certain areas where they literally have to call in professional climbers to come get the sheep out there. And I'm like, you might have to take the sheep and me out at the same time. But
yeah, that happened to me once. I was in New Zealand with lampers, and we had got ourselves way back into this sketchy canyon, and we had climbed over an entire mountain pass and come down into the other side. And when we had gone that last 100 feet up, we were scared to death. We were like clutching every rock. I thought we were going to die. It was stupid. It was the dumbest. I did a series of really dumb things on that trip that I'll never do again. Thankfully, I didn't die. And as I climbed over, we were both like, we can't go back the way we came.
Yeah.
We just can't. We have to find another way out. And we were up against the weather. It was so cold, but just wet. So New Zealand is classic for being like 28 degrees. which is the worst because it'll go like 32 in rain and then it'll freeze. And so everything was sort of right at that getting soaked, and the sleeping bags and everything. And there was no wood to burn. We didn't bring the stove. We brought the teepee, but not the stove, because we had planned to camp on the top where it's above, it's in the snow. It's like 10 feet of snow, and then hike back down to the bottom. And we did. We just didn't go back the way we came. We came down to a different canyon. And we were so cold, and there was a hut that was about a few miles down the canyon. And we had crappy old maps, and we were looking at it. There's no way to tell like how sketchy it is or isn't. And New Zealand's just, it's nothing to be messed with. They're Southern Alps. And we're like, crap. We are so cold. Let's just, I might as well hike because I can't sleep.
Right.
And just hike all night and see if we can get ourselves out. And so we did. And we had heavy packs. Both had dead animals in the packs. And we were like hiking out with hides and meat and everything. And we kept hitting, and it was just water and canyon and boulders. And we kept hitting all these cliffs. And it became really important that we had some bright headlamps. At the time, this is sort of why we wanted the Peaks headlamp developed. Because prior to that, a lot of those headlamps, they might be bright for an hour of runtime, and then they're dead. And I had like one of those zebra lamps and a couple others that run on the CR2, but it's like, you're running out of time. So you turn it on and you use that lamp to like look. It's like a spotlight. And I was like really trying to look, because you needed to know if you slid down this 20-foot rock face, like we'd drop our packs, and then we would slide ourselves down those faces. But there's no going back up.
Right. You're committed.
You're committed.
Yeah.
And then you got a cliff on one side, and on the other side you have pools that are 10 feet deep and 10 feet wide of raging ice water, glacial melt. And it's like, okay, we could just get ourselves stuck, just completely trapped on a bench. And so it was like a puzzle. It was like you were looking so far down to go, yeah, it seems good if we went this way, but we would get cliffed out. So we have to stay back, cross right here, even though it sucks, navigate worse bit, but it's always finding ways down. But at the end of the day, we were still always limited to how far the lamp could shine.
Yeah.
And you were always at risk of being stuck, because there was no going back with those loads and the packs and everything. It was out or
downhill or nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, if you like the show and you want to support us and you're in the market for a brand new sleeping bag, check out the Peaks Solace 15. We spent a lot of years designing that sleeping bag in partnership with Peaks Equipment. The Peaks sleeping bag has so many innovative features. The old backpacker saying that 2 is 1 and 1 is none is never more true. And this sleeping bag is so versatile. It can be a quilt. It can be a jacket. It's got armholes. It's a 3-way zipper. It regulates temperature really well. It's got the hood. It's pretty remarkable. Go check it out. Use the code GRITTY and you'll save. And it helps us keep doing what we do. Now, let's get back to the show.
And it was a sketchy night. It was kind of macabre humor. We were kind of making jokes, about freezing to death and dying, falling and breaking a leg or drowning. And it's just like, that's just, and it's just all those jokes as you go down, just so you don't think about like how intense this situation is.
Yeah. Put yourself in a bad spot. Yep.
That and packing out of grizzly country. I'm like, I need a headlamp that really blasts into the darkness and will burn 8 hours, like a whole night. As you're going through, and rechargeable, and that's kind of where that came from.
Well, that thing's been great. I think we own like 4. I think I bought 4 of them now. Like that's just a must have in there, because we were running like cheaper headlamp. To your point, it's like, oh, this will work great, and then 3 hours later, you're like, I'm using my cell phone as a flashlight to get out of the damn mountain.
Yeah, I was just talking about this the other day. I was talking to like an ultralight guy who's got his base weight camp down to 10 pounds. This is August hiking, through the Pacific Crest Trail. But still, even sub 20, you're like, what are you carrying?
Yeah.
What are you using? And you realize over time as you talk, I've been spending a lot of time researching and in the backpacking forums and on these different YouTube channels. And I'm like, whoa, they are not like us.
they'd rarely even hunt cold weather, let alone like have to pack out an animal, carry a weapon. You know, it's such a different thing. And for years we've been robbing gear from like the backpacking side of things to bring it into hunting. But now you look across and there are so many great products built for the hunter, even rifles being so much lighter than they used to be. It's pretty good time to be in the wood stove in a shelter.
Yeah.
That's made for hunting.
Yeah. That titanium stove, absolute game changer. That's one of we fired that thing up in that tent that night, and it probably took 10 minutes, and we're shedding layers. Felissa has her socks off and we're drying them. I kept telling her, don't burn your toes on the stove, because she's about this far away, because she can't feel her feet. They're numb. So yeah, all the tools that we have nowadays as hunters, holy cow, like pretty awesome stuff now.
When you guys were doing Overwatch on that side, okay, it's some of my favorite part of the film. Really, it is the climactic part. Like after you take the shot and it cuts to them.
Yeah.
The audience doesn't know. Did he get it? Did he not get it? What happened?
Yeah.
And then letting it, you live through it a second time, but from the perspective of you three, it is so raw and real. And lots of X-rated, I'd say R-rated language.
Just every day. I don't.
I edited around it. It was pretty remarkable how well it turned out.
It was pretty good.
But y'all are sitting there, and the audience can feel in you just this intense tension. I think it was higher in you guys than it was in Jeremiah and Brad. You guys even said that.
Worse.
You even said that. Why do you think it's worse, Tito?
Because you can't. I mean, I think in this group right here, right? There's 50. We've known each other for, you guys obviously longer, but 15. We've been hunting together for 15 years. I mean, we've shared horrible nights. Me, you, my wife, at 11,000 feet, having no business swinging in a hammock in a sideways hailstorm.
Yeah,
right.
Good memories.
There's 15 years of camaraderie and emotions, and
yeah.
Everybody here has seen somebody be successful, right, and help that person pack out an animal or spend nights on a unit or whatever. I just think you're sitting there, you're watching him. He's so focused, and you're thinking about
everything. He has a place to put his energy.
Yeah,
you're just
like a
helpless. Helpless. Yeah,
you're helpless.
You're just hummingbird trapped in a car, just waiting to just burst. Whether it goes right or wrong.
At least I liked from the Overwatch crew that these two thought I was going to get it done. This guy over here, this is my favorite part of the whole film. I'm stalking in.
Yeah.
And Mark turns to my wife, because last time I talked to Mark on the radio's cut out, stopped working.
Yeah.
That's a lot of big part of it that people just don't know. And as last time I heard Mark, he's like, hey, you're several hundred yards out. I'm like, okay. Well, I creep out. Well, in my mind, I'm thinking the sheep are still 200 to 300 yards away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not realizing that I'm on top of them. They're right below me. So Mark turns to Felissa and goes, I'm going to film this to show him how he messed this up. Right? That's the words that came out of his mouth. And
right on, brother.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
And so, Mark has the BTX. We bought all that fancy optic for this hunt, which worked out really well. And we have the all-in system. So Mark takes his phone, throws it on the BTX. Well, he forgets it's rolling. He doesn't even know that he's capturing all of this on film. So these three don't know they're getting filmed. So they're letting all the raw emotion out. And
mainly anger.
I think we hit every emotion.
Yeah.
It was all of them.
At the beginning was primarily anger.
All
and
of
then
them.
we definitely hit the
that ram right there got called a lot of dirty words.
He might have been called.
He was an MFer a number of times.
Oh yeah,
for not standing still, not moving in the right direction.
It was that stupid you that we hated the most. God, if I could,
I wish they would
truck.
They need to do a U-hunt on that unit.
Yeah,
what's hilarious too is when the shot goes. First of all, every time they gave Felissa an update, oh, he's at full draw. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, my god. Oh, he's dialing the sight. Oh my god! Oh my god! Like each time, it was so good. Yeah. It was so good.
I was getting so hyped up.
And then when the arrow flies, oh, he shot. I saw the arrow go. I saw that. And then Tito has to crap all over the excitement.
He missed.
First off, I'm always going to get trashed for that. But if you look at the footage, okay, I'm going to defend myself. You look at the footage, that arrow just keeps beaming through. Like there's no like limpness out of the arrow to the back end. Right. The animal doesn't look like
the trajectory's a little high.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah, no way. I thought he was gonna neck it. You know what I mean? I just did.
Yeah.
And so that arrow just keeps like a lightning bolt, and
Missed.
I'm like, miss.
You could hear it in your voice, like, miss, dang it. Well,
when I'm sitting there, I'm like, there's no way he missed. Like, he wasn't shooting good yesterday, but he shouldn't have missed. And we're just sitting there, like, speechless. Don't know what to do. And he comes out on the edge. I'm like,
I know if the list is like, he missed? Oh, he missed?
He
Are you
missed.
sure he missed? Like, her tone of her voice is like, so
I'm telling you, the emotions was like this.
So
he stopped. So the ram comes down. Everything just, it's chaos over there.
Mm-hmm.
And he separates himself and he comes out and he stands there. And I'm like, no, he's red. I've looked at this ram
Bright
for
red.
5 days.
Bright red.
He's covered in
I
blood.
can see it in that crappy video.
Yeah.
Just
And he stood
I'm
there.
like-
He stood on that point for a
split second. I'm like,
before he dove.
he's covered in blood.
Yeah.
He bails off, and you had watched blood come out as he's
I
bailing
saw
off
that
the cliff.
giant
spraying.
spot hit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he hit it.
Yeah.
Here we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
radio
good.
at this point still isn't working.
Ugh.
I'm just yelling at him on the radio. Like,
Well,
get your butt moving.
So, there are a few haters, or, like there is, want to be, that's are like, I can't believe you used a radio to, help you with this hunt. I wish that wasn't the case. I always find that comical. It's sort of been a pet peeve of mine, a beef for years. One time, Ranella was on Rogan's podcast, and he was like, radios, if you're going to hunt it with a radio, I just feel like that's just cheating or unethical. And I was like, Ranella, how many bow hunts have you done? Like, I love Steve, but I'm thinking, okay, a 400-yard shot offers a lot of technology advantage.
Yeah.
That sheep would have been dead 55 times by now.
oh yeah.
1,000
We would have killed
times.
him opening day.
And it's like,
Yeah, easy.
it's so, to me, I think it's always interesting when people pick and choose the tech that it's gone too far.
Yeah.
And I like the BTX. I mean, one could argue that the optics we use today, just not fair.
Yeah.
Just too much tech. And so in the case of the radio, I always thought it was funny because if I were a sheep, I'd rather take my chances with the dude with the bow and arrow and the radio than the dude with the rifle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to me, again, if it's especially on an attack like this, whatever is legal, I'm going to employ all those tools to the best of my advantage within the parameters of the type of hunt I want to have. Maybe I don't want to shoot. I want it to be a little harder than shooting one over water or something. Great. I can impose that challenge on myself. Maybe you don't want to do it with a radio because you're like, I want a little bit harder of a challenge. I just think it annoys the crap out of me when people have it's like the Garmin Zero. I got crap over that for years. I felt like I was like one of the first to say, yeah, I'm down with this. It always killed me. You're sitting there shooting a high-tech bow with all this high-tech engineering and all this stuff. And you got a rangefinder that goes in the slot here and you're ranging, then you have the single pin dial and you get the exact accuracy. But the fact that it's on the bow is a bridge too far.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing. It just saves you the moment it takes to do it by hand, which is significant and can
in that
lead
moment. Yeah.
to success. But it's not like it's so far that's just too unethical.
Yeah.
You've made it too easy. I still have to shoot the same shot, whether I have the zero or the other sight.
Yeah. You still got to make the shot.
It just, I don't know. I'm just over it, by the way. I feel this way about bow hunters and fly fishermen. They're just a-holes, like a lot of them.
Mhm.
And they're way too pretentious and too full of themselves. And it's like, hey, everybody's out there hunting, having a good time, and they're at different levels. I just let it ride.
Yeah.
I do agree with, this is a tangent, but just let me get this off my chest. I do agree with the idea of if you want to hunt to be high opportunity, low success rate, then you restrict technology. I get that. And so maybe a unit or a game agency goes, you know what, the 0 might lead to too much success, or a radio is helping the bow hunters too much. You can always like pull back technology when harvest rates start to creep up.
For sure.
And then you can allow more opportunity, you know, in the form of tags, because there's only so many animals to go around. I get it. I'm okay with that. But if the rules are there and they've been established and you're going to hate on a guy because he leveraged whatever was legal, I just can't get behind that.
I think it's always going to just come down to individual mentality. Like, I think guys that are not going to exploit or use the technology to their advantage, most of them are just hating because they don't have the means or necessity that fits their narrative. Oh, I can't go out and buy a BTX, so it's unfair. It's cheating.
Yeah.
Well, if you had it, though, you'd use it.
There's not a ton of those comments, thankfully.
No.
But I love that because it gives me a lot of good audio. Because there's updates that are given to Mark, which then allow, like, oh, I know what's going on. Because you might radio back to Mark and go, this is what happened.
Yeah.
But that whole thing going down with them doing Overwatch, and the fact that the radio died and you were on your own, I think sometimes is actually better. Like, what do you think about that? Because having the radio, I've done that before. And I've actually never really killed when the radio is in my ear. It's when the radio didn't work.
You go into hunt mode.
And you go into hunt mode and you don't get like thrown off. I actually think, it was sort of a blessing it didn't work.
Yeah, I think about that a lot because, you know, Felissa describing Mark on the other side of the canyon when the radio wasn't working, you know, he's pissed. He's throwing his hat. I think he kicked a sagebrush or maybe a cactus. I can't remember. And, but, you know, Felissa said that. She's like, I'm within bow range.
Yeah.
And just instincts
Full
took
focus.
Yeah. If Mark would have, you know, been radioing me like, go to your right, you know, range this or do that. Like now he's hunting and not me. Right?
Your reps took over.
Yeah. Just the years of experience. Like, hey, I'm within bow range. I kind of have an idea what to do. And I'm glad it worked out the way that it did, to be honest with you. It was just a fluke, because that's all it was a fluke. And you know, even with the radio not working too, we would never got that footage that Mark took.
Yeah.
Because
that camera footage is so cool.
Oh, that angle, like, man, that was cool.
You know, too, when you're looking at that footage, people on the shot, you know, I've looked at it so many times trying to see if it moved. The sheep moved left, right, up, down, or did anything.
Yeah.
The truth is, at that distance and that footage, you can't tell. You just can't tell if he like moved to the right, moved to the left, turned, lifted up a little. You think you can tell, and I've slowed it down, but this is only like 24 frames per second.
Yeah.
There's a lot of frames missed in those milliseconds.
Yep.
You really can't tell what the sheep did. And having filmed tons of hunts, there are so many things that I thought, you know, I thought one way, and then I saw it on film, and I'm like,
it's not the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, in your defense, the one thing that none of us really know, even though it seems like you know on the film, is did that sheep move? Did he move between the time the arrow released and it struck? Did he move?
You know, I think about that a lot, and it's kind of like when someone gets in a car wreck, right? Mm-hmm. Like they'll tell the officer, hey, this is what happened, this is how the wreck happened. But the reality, that's not how it went down. They'll go watch like a camera footage and be like, man, the wreck was completely different than what this guy just described.
Exactly.
And I think in the heat of the moment, a lot of times when you're shooting at an animal, adrenaline, you get that tunnel vision. Mm-hmm. I've had guys come in here that go, man, I know I pinwheeled it in the perfect spot, and I find this animal and I hit it in the butt, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think
you will never know. And anytime you're taking a shot, it doesn't matter if it's 20 yards.
Oh yeah.
70 yards. The potential for it to jump, move, flinch, whatever is always there.
Yep.
You hear people say, you know, you shouldn't take a longer shot because there's a lot of the cone of variables of things that can go wrong is much wider the further you get from the target. And that is true. There is truth there.
Yep.
But being close has also caused me some problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think being too close could be, I mean, they react to the sound of your bow more.
Yep.
Like
they might lock on to you.
Yeah.
The question is, do you shoot an animal that's looking at you or do you not? Because a lot of times that animal jumps out of the way. It's like versus one that hears nothing. But even then I've had some that are just like grazing and then they just they hear that sound and they flinch and they move.
Yeah.
You'll never know. You'll never know. And that's just bow hunting.
Yeah, if you try to pinpoint any variable in bow hunting, you'll never probably relive the same one again. I mean, maybe sitting in a tree stand over whitetail or water or something over and over and over again, right? Year after year after year. But if you're spot and stalking, it's a pretty rare opportunity that you've relived the same variables.
Yeah, different scenarios every time.
Scenario, whether it's climate, whether it's wind, whether it's equipment, whether it's angle, pitch, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare that you find the exact same scenario year after year after year after year.
For sure.
Or even once in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've relived that shot a lot in my mind, and, there's some people out there on the comments and stuff that didn't like it, and I get it. Hey, that's their opinion. I'm okay with that. But, I've said this for years. I don't care if you're a rifle guy, a muzzleloader, or even a bow hunter. We all make mistakes, and it could have been a combination of me making a mistake, pulling the shot. The ram could have moved at the last second. Once you release that arrow on an animal, there is still luck involved. There is still so many variables that can happen in that, even though it happens that fast, there's still a lot of things that happen.
Yeah. Tito, where would you say is when you see something, because we all have this line, right? Where you see a shot take place. There are times where you've watched a bow hunter do something and you're like disappointed. You're like, that was a shot that I feel was irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's shots where they take it just didn't go well. Where's that line for you? How do you detect the difference? Do you?
I don't think you can. I don't know. I think that it's like we just said, every variable is different in the scenario. The only way you're going to get that is by reps in the field. I'm
a little more judgmental than you, I think.
I think maybe I just had a lot of loss in my hunting career. But I think it's animal behavior. Do I feel confident making a lot more maybe riskier shots because I've killed a lot more mule deer, right? I understand the parameters of what that animal, I can look at a mule deer most of the time and I can tell really well what that animal is going to do most of the time. Because I've hunted that and I have a lot of reps on mule deer.
Yeah.
Elk, no.
Right. Okay.
He'd never hunted sheep before. We just got done talking about how erratic their behavior is, right? So I don't know that you really had a line other than that shot. That animal was standing there. You felt comfortable and you broke the shot.
What do you think, Mark?
Man, we talk about this every day in here.
Yeah.
What I feel confident at, what you feel confident, every one of us on this table
right.
is all completely different. Just because of what I'm comfortable with doesn't mean anybody else should be doing the same thing.
Right.
And so I think you just got to make up your mind before you get there to know this is what I'm okay to do. And let it ride.
For
it is
me,
what it is.
I base it a lot of times when I'm at full draw.
Yes.
I passed what would have been the biggest buck of my life about 5 years ago. Phyllis and I are down hunting and, creep in, range him 69 yards. Draw back, and I just didn't feel good about the shot. And I let down. I creep in a little bit more, and I let that deer walk. Never seen him again. Never got another opportunity. I just go in that moment. And we ask this to guys all the time. What is the percentage that you feel like it needs to be? When you're at full draw, does it 50-50 is not good enough odds for me, right? I'm not telling that shot, but some guys are 60-40, some guys are 70-30. If you get a full draw and go, man, I have a 70% chance I'm going to kill this animal, or an 80% chance.
Yep.
Everyone has their own level of ethics. And I think that, depending on how much you've practiced, how good you feel with your bow.
Yeah.
But I've seen so many guys that I've been just geeking out on sheep films now. I'm watching them.
Yeah.
I come home, and I'm watching sheep film at night, and Phyllis is like, you watching another one of those? But you know how many guys, even with rifles, I've seen mess up a shot.
Yeah.
Miss the first shot all the time. And I go, you know what? I don't care. Rifle, muzzleloader, archery. You put in the work, you feel confident. Hopefully you harvest and make the perfect shot. That's, as hunters, what we all strive to do, regardless of what weapon choice you have. But they're not always going to go perfect. And then, it's one of those things where, I've wounded a deer in the past, and I remember sitting in camp, and I literally took my tag and I burned it in the fire. I'm done. I've wounded an animal. I'm not going to go get another one. But there's some guys that aren't that way. That's one thing that's really weird with this ethical decision is there's no law in the state that says you can't go hunt and harvest another animal. You know, they say, hey, if you wounded one,
Some states are different, but
some
yeah.
states are different, but Utah, it's like, hey, if you wound an animal, as long as you put forth a
If
reasonable
you
amount
didn't
of effort-
recover it, you can keep hunting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, you know, some guys take that privilege to do that, which is on them.
Well, and I think that's built into each state's
Management
allocation
plan.
of tags and management plan.
For
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me it goes it's sort of like my goal is to win, to get the animal.
Yeah.
And so I'm weighing like so many variables. Okay. Is this a shot I will make? Yes or no? Am I relatively certain this is a shot I'm going to make?
It comes down to experience.
And if I'm not probably going to make that shot, and I can find that out at full draw usually.
Yeah.
It's like I'm shaking too much. It doesn't feel right. The wind is blowing me. You know, I'm too nervous or I'm totally dead calm. I'm so confident. It feels so good. I'll judge that then. I am not committed to let that arrow fly just because I came to full draw.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. It's that moment at full draw going, what does the pin look like on the animal? How good do I feel?
And it's so funny on that shot, you know, the angle it doesn't look too bad. Like down on that sheep you're aiming at.
Yeah.
There's no wind. I swear it was like a pin could drop. It seems
There was a little bit of wind, but not enough where it would have affected my arrow.
compared to like the day before,
Yeah.
it felt like a freaking hurricane was like
Yeah.
the microphone. I couldn't hear anything because the wind was ripping so hard.
Well, and it's funny too. There's been people that commented like, I can't believe you didn't let it fly on that sandstone setup. You know,
I know.
Like
I
there's
mean-
so many guys that are like, you have way more patience than me. And I knew. I was like,
these are almost the same distances.
yeah,
But this isn't even downhill on that sandstone setup. It's
Right.
flat.
yeah.
And yet you're like, I can feel it in me.
I
Like
just knew.
too cold, shivery. It's wind is blowing. There's too many other sheep around that ram. Like, but a lot of guys would have let her rip then. I just go back to, is it a shot? I want the animal.
Right.
And so there's a big part of me that's like, well, let him walk, get him in an hour.
Right.
Get him 2 hours from now.
Mhm.
Get him tomorrow. But whatever you do, don't wound him, you know, or fatally kill him and never find him.
Yeah.
Like those are the things where I'm like, yeah, I don't want that. And I'm weighing these variables. When I look at a person and I'm like, oh, I'm disappointed that they took that shot. Generally, the reason I make that assessment is because they can't make that shot on a target, let alone a live animal. Like you've known enough about them that you're like, rifle or bow.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like, and that's where the ethics come in for me. It's like, know what your limitations are and then play within those limitations and it'll lead to the greatest levels of success. I remember having this debate years ago, a decade ago when I started this podcast. There was a big heavy set guy. We'll call him Fat. And he was out hunting a lot of, critters and he was killing them, smoking them at 90 yards on the regular. Dude can shoot, still can. Amazing shot. Even 100 yards, these shots that, most guys would never take.
Right.
And he's doing it all the time. 2 left feet, not exactly sneaky, not exactly, the heart rate isn't exactly like the best conditioned. He's not going to sneak up to 30 yards.
No.
He's not built for it. But why should he?
Right.
He's a gifted archer. Like you should use the talent that you have and lean into that hard. If you're sneaky guy but can't hit the side of a barn, which I loved. I did that podcast Kip Fowler. We sat down with
Kip's
Kip.
a stud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kip, I love Kip. He's just like, yeah, I'm a horrible shot. And I've heard from other people's, he ain't lying. It's
not.
kind of legendary how bad of a shot
Yeah.
Kip is. And
But man, he's a killer.
Mhm.
Look
Right.
at the deer that guy has slain.
and so he told me about some of the bucks. He told some stories about just flat out missing at like 20 yards.
Yeah.
And, going back and he killed the buck later after and trying to get closer because he's like, man, I'm not a very good shot. 40 yards is a bit of a poke.
Yeah.
I got to get closer,
Yeah.
that kind of thought process. Well, that's him going, I want the deer.
Yeah.
what I want is the deer. And I'm not a good shot. So even though 40 yards is with modern equipment, like I should be dialed, I know me, and I better lean on my other skill set, which is knowing where he's going to go, being sneaky and getting tight, and then taking my time. Like, and that again is that whole combination of knowing yourself and then playing for success. You're going to pass on that 40-yard shot if you're a terrible shot. And too many guys are like, their goal is the shot. Their actual goal is to get the shot, not to get the animal.
Shoot first mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they go out there and subconsciously they just want to have been able to get the shot off, and then they go back and they tell their friends, I had that 190 buck and you saw it, I missed, but it was amazing.
Yeah.
They got what their goal was actually.
Right.
And
I mean, hunting was built around campfire stories, right?
yeah, and I don't think they realize that that's kind of their goal. But if they can't make that shot, they would have waited. If their actual goal, like I always say to myself, like one of the litmus tests for me is to say, if I don't get the animal, my whole family gets murdered.
Oh boy.
And it's like when I set up that scenario in my head, I'm like, oh. Yeah, I ain't taking this 90-yard shot. I got to get closer. Like there's this realness, this truth that sort of bubbles to the surface when you put stakes against it, and you're like, you become more honest with yourself when the stakes are like that.
I was talking to Wayne Endicott. He owns the bow rack up in Eugene. That's where Cameron goes. And me and Wayne are at a trade show one year, and as he did a couple hunts on YouTube I watched, and I was like, Wayne, like, what do you do? Like, what's your mentality to shoot an animal? And he goes, I shoot at it like it owes me money. That's his thing. So it's just funny you say, my wife and kids are going to die if I don't make this shot. And he's like, I shoot at, and that's his motivation in his mind at full draw to go, I'm going to make this shot here.
Yeah. And he knows like this is a shot that is, in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Approaches it with confidence.
But you're only going to gain that by, I think, experience or reps or we tell guys in the shop all the time, like, some of the biggest killers in the world have killed the biggest things in the world with a whisker biscuit on the front of the gun, right? It's
how to be a killer.
How intimate are you going to be with the equipment you have, and then go out and just put in the time, know yourself, and slay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and the shot that you took got you a sheep. Mm-hmm. Despite all the nerves, the downhill, all the pieces that were playing a role in there, the distance and everything, and waiting for that sheep to clear from all the other sheep, and then taking your shot. And that still speaks to your archery ability. Like that sheep body was a lot smaller than people think. Even you mentioned that when you come up, you're like, dang, dude, this thing's tiny.
It was way smaller than and we've talked about that a lot. Like we got a photo of all of us standing next, and it looks so small there.
Little dainty with this giant set of bones on its head.
Yeah. No, it's, on that shot, it's something that honestly is going to haunt me the rest of my life. It really is. Like I will never let it go. And part of it, like, in the film when I'm sitting there and, I kept telling Brad, I'm like, man, I'm just sick to my stomach. And I was like, I had a knot in my stomach, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what kind of a rodeo did I just get us into? I've got a once in a lifetime animal wounded down here. And more than anything, I was just mad at myself, for the amount of animals that I've harvested in 20 plus years of bow hunting. And I've made so many good shots. And in that moment, whether I felt like I pulled the shot, I feel like it was a combination of, maybe the sheep moving and me pulling. And, the other thing too is just a mental error that I made in that moment is, me and Mark did a lot of studying, looking at sheep anatomy, and everyone's like, hey, these sheep's vitals are more tucked forward in the front than a normal deer and elk. So, deer and elk in that same shot scenario, I'm back towards the back rib.
Yeah.
And if I would have missed right, would have been a perfect shot, right? But because I held that pin a little too close to the shoulder, thinking where the vitals are at, it just was a recipe for making a poor shot. And
Yeah. And those downhills, those angles play with you too.
Yeah.
A little bit quartering away, a little bit downhill. Like there's all these things that play.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'm gonna pull the bro code. Like, and like the first thing when I walked up to you that night, like you gave her a hug and I walked up on you and you're like, oh man, do you make the greatest shot? And I was like, dude, get out of your head.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're gonna relive that. You're gonna relive that. And you could double lung a deer, and then you could look back and be like, oh, I didn't shoot it in the heart.
Yeah.
You shot it once in a lifetime.
I know.
Yeah.
You put in
Well,
the
that's-
work,
that's the
and
thing.
that animal's on the ground. And
Yeah.
you can always look at the shoulda, woulda, couldas, but man, you got to also like relish in your success. You have to relish in like your moment. That's your moment.
Well, you said it in the video. You're like, I didn't make the best shot, but I'm so grateful. I have what the goal was.
Yeah.
And again, I go back to, you chose the equipment. You chose to shoot when you shot. You chose the hunt. You chose the friends to come out there and help you do it. You put the package together. You put in all those years for the tag. You did all that stuff. It's not just the shot. It's all that stuff. And thankfully, all that other stuff was just enough to get you over the finish line for that shot you made.
Right.
And that right there that's yours. Nobody gets to take that away.
Yeah. The other thing that I think about all the time too, like I think bow hunters are held to a much higher standard, right? Like
For sure.
When you watch
or you hold yourself to
Well,
higher
especially I think with
even amongst your peers, right?
with long range shooting hitting the market, it's like this acceptable thing, like they're shooting mortars at a target. It's like, well, you're off by 2 feet to the right and a little high. Readjust, and then they readjust, and it's like
boom, impact.
It seems
but
so
how cool are those vapor traces when they're in the fields, right?
But it again, that seems to be it's still hated on, but not as much as I believe it should be.
Yeah.
Whereas bow hunters, it's like, oh, you suck. You made a bad shot.
Yeah.
Like you're so unethical, and it's like the variables that can go wrong on a bow is so much greater than a rifle anyway. But yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Different standard
For sure. Yep.
You get away with those longer shots, and people are like, great animal. They're all doing the same thing. A lot of these people.
Yeah.
That's why Lampers and I really tried hard to like 400 and in or 300 yards and in we set these distances limitations for us with rifle. First of all, the ethics, although modern equipment is so good now, it's sort of a little pretentious to even pretend that a 600 or 500 yard shot is hard.
Yeah.
And that you need to get closer. But it's also just a different experience. If I can get to 200 yards, which I generally can because I bow hunted most of my life, get to 200 yards of a bear and really see it and get right on top of it, it's just more rewarding than shooting it at 600 yards. It just has a different feel. And I think it prepares you for other hunts because closing that distance.
Well, I think there's also something to be said in the Western hunting pocket of you had a sheep tag. Most people throw the category of mule deer, sheep, in this category of it's going to be a far shot.
Yeah.
I think there's something greatly to be said that a 70-yard shot is a relatively close shot on a sheep with a bow.
Well, true, because of the terrain features.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just terrain alone. You could get clipped out.
Yeah, you're going to be expected. I totally hear what you're saying. I think that anybody that expects you to get a 20-yard shot on a ram in mountains and cliffs is sort of smoke and crack.
Yeah, it's just
it
unrealistic.
can happen for sure. You can come over the top and there it is. But generally speaking, you're going to be taking longer shots. I think Phil Mendoza at No Limits there, when he drew that tag in the Sangre de Cristos mountains there, Sangre de Cristo, and it was the bow hunter draw. And I remember he had gone out and he missed like some pretty doable shots, like 2 or 3. Then he went back and he had to figure out his cut chart, and then he had to rebuild it and put it like on his arm because the rangefinders weren't doing the thing. And then he went back out, and it was like the closest he was getting is 78 yards on these sheep. And he won the Train to Hunt. He's a great archer. He's much like you. He's done all this shooting. He owns an archery shop, and yet these little variables play a role. But getting a shot, he knew if he was going to get a sheep out of that unit, he better be able to poke it out there a ways.
Yeah, and that's the thing with that terrain. Like I've watched some other sheep hunts, like I think it was Remy Warren's sheep hunt that he put out there with the Matthews Proving Ground.
Yeah,
and I'm looking at the terrain that some of these guys are hunting these sheep, and I'm like, that is
It's not even close to where
not
we
even
were.
close to where we were
Yeah,
at,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
And so
It's like mule deer on the Wasatch, you know. You're like,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that terrain was, you know, I kept saying that. Like, and to me, for all the years I've bow hunted, I do tell guys, and I'm honest about it, I hold myself to 80 yards or under. That's my limit.
Yeah.
That's where I know it's at. And sometimes I feel like I'm making that shot and sometimes I can't. But I mean, Mark and I know there's guys in the industry that we know really well.
Yeah.
That can kill stuff at 140 yards with a bow. Like, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, they're just that stinking good. Right. And so
Tell me this, on the bow, you know, you can see a little bit of the carnage. You know, well, the rocks look like it looks like a crime scene. I had to edit around that whole thing quite a bit, but I still left some in briefly because I color graded it so it wasn't as bright red.
Yeah.
Just browned it out a little bit. But I felt like, you know, we're all hunters. We want to see what happened.
Right.
You know, and I think it's our duty to show it. And so, you know, you did the Italian
Tying bow ties.
Bow ties?
Is that
we're
what they
calling
call
it. Yeah.
I don't know, some mob guys.
Sounds
you slit
really
his
good.
throat.
Yeah.
And I think had you been using a fixed blade broadhead, you wouldn't have got that ram
No.
at all. And talk about that a little bit, because man, I'm hearing from some of the best archers I know, like I'm starting to hear more and more like, yeah, mechanicals, man. Yeah. It's just they're not like what your grandpa used.
No. I would say there's not a animal in North America that I would not go hunt with the mechanical now. Like, even if I went back on my moose hunt in Alaska,
yeah,
mechanical's going on the front of my arrow.
I've heard some podcasts, some guys that really, and I've been watching guys that I really respect, and they're like mechanical.
Yeah.
And man, does it piss some people off.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fixed
I was
blade.
the fixed blade guy, right? Like I was the ride or die fixed blade guy, and
I think they're not for everybody. You know, like Thalissa here, like, you know, with her draw length and poundage, mule deer, I think mechanicals are just fine. We got her set up the right equipment. But for elk, like she has an elk tag in her pocket this year, we're still going to make her run a fixed blade for those. But it's the knowledge of years of doing this. Like, even, you know, Mark has been tinkering with his bow nonstop trying to figure these things out. But we have the knowledge to get any broadhead we want, really, to fly where we want it to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's not a problem.
I do love the performance. So tell me, you know, where the arrow exactly hit. Did it just slip past? Did the tip go in at all? Or what do you think happened?
It was full impact on the neck. And you could see where it kind of, you know, at that angle, I was behind the shoulder, and I've looked at it from multiple photos and just being there.
Best you can.
You know, it did come in front of the shoulder, but up into the neck, and it hit pretty good into the neck. Like, it was kind of a
Not
centered
surface level.
Yeah, it was definitely centered. And, you know, that mega meat that I'm shooting, that 2-inch hole, man, they're devastating. And, you know, I used to be that guy that wants pass-throughs, right? Like, you still hear that a lot of times, like, guys, like, I want a pass-through. I could care less about pass-throughs anymore. I really don't care.
Me too.
I just
don't
want
care.
wound channel. It's like your bull that you killed with the dead meat. I mean, look at the devastation. Did you get a pass-through? No. But in
fact, that's, you know, people see what they want to see.
Yeah.
You know, I did a podcast about it.
Yeah, breaking it down.
It's pretty interesting. People should go check it out. But, you know, I show you the video in that what the arrow did, and the rib it broke, and there's a whole 1-inch section of the rib missing where it went in, and then it went the entire length of the lung, and then it stopped in the head of the chest cavity.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's got to go through a lot more dense material, and it had lost its momentum, and it's a wide head. And the blood in the hole, the wound channel was just absolutely devastating. Yeah. And people were like, the fixed blade guys were like, yep, I hope you learned your lesson. that was no penetration, and you didn't hit the other lung, and damn, you're so lucky, and damn those things. I wish people would stop using mechanicals. Yeah. So you had that audience, which is actually sad, because the exact opposite is what happened, but they see what they want to see.
Yeah.
That's what they believe it, and they want to believe that. They don't want to be confronted. They don't want their ideas shifted. They don't. And the other broadhead, bull was a lot lower than I thought. It still entered on that high shoulder. behind the shoulder, but it exited behind the crease and it pierced the offside lung. But the meat it had to go through the top of the muscle up there and the spine and stuff and all those vertebrae, and then all the way into the chest cavity. It carved a hole like this glass right here, all the way through. Like the wound channel was like this giant hole I could put my fingers through, and you could look down inside it, and it pierced the body cavity, like this much meat and muscle and bone to get into there, and then pierce the lung. And it's like, what else do you want it to do, boys?
Yeah.
You can't show that, right? Like the one thing me and Mark, we geek out about this. After we had caped it, he and I dissected it. We sat there for a half hour like nerds. And we dissected the entire wound channel, and we actually like found in the neck where that blade had opened up and hit like
the esophagus,
like
couple smaller arteries.
No, it hit a main artery. That's where all that blood came out. And honestly, I was
on the
pretty
right
impressed.
side of that neck. It took all that out.
And that wound channel was so impressive. And we sat there and we discussed broadheads for an extra hour while we were sitting there on top of the animal talking about the wound channel.
I knew, like, when people saw it, that there would be sympathies felt. I ran it by a bunch of women in the house, you know, my mom, my sisters, my kids. Every one of them were like, oh, they hate to see it. I do too. But man, I'll tell you what, like, that I think happens way, way more than we all know.
For sure.
When I see somebody shoot an animal and they go, yeah, I'm going to come back and let's give him some time. And we'll come back and we'll check him later. When that happens, that animal's dying for 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours.
You just don't see it.
You just don't see it.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. And people don't go, shame on that hunter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is what happens when you see something that is hard to watch, like a suffering animal. The rationality goes out the window, the logic and so forth, and gets swapped out for emotion, sympathy, and just a knee-jerk reaction, especially the more empathetic, crowd. And so, but it's so fascinating to me because I make films out of this stuff. And there's so many animals where I'm like, man, that thing we waited overnight for that, to recover that. No one batted an eye.
Yeah. I think about that with the sheep. After I hit him, if he would have ran the other way, we would have never captured that. People have never seen it. And then we'd be like, oh, he ran to the bottom and died. And people don't know. But it's like, man, the fact that we captured that footage, he ran the right direction for us to keep eyes on him. It's like,
it's kind of special.
It is kind of special. And to see him try to block the wound against the rock and try to stop his own bleeding.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't show that stuff. I just went through it, but, it's a delicate balance between what you show and what you don't show.
Well, I think people don't realize how hard it is as a hunter to like we said, we talked about like all the emotions, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard as I've gotten older to like watch animals die. Take a life. Like that's a serious thing. And you try to preach that to your kids, right? As your kids are coming up and they're getting ready to hunt, like taking a life is a really big thing.
Everyone kind of reacts different to it. Like some people are super emotional. Like, when every animal that I've ever watched Alyssa kill, she cries on. Every one of them. And that's fine. And there's other
every
guys,
one of them.
Yeah. But there's other guys that get up to an animal and they wanted to kill it so bad. They absolutely hated it, And so it's interesting to watch different people on different hunts and films of how they react when they harvest an animal and their emotions, And so.
Emotions all around. That's one thing I will say, like, about this. Like, there's an emotional side of things that in the movie didn't get captured. And one of the most important times was your guys' radio conversation.
Yeah.
So the radios stopped working, and then miraculously they started working. And there's a clip that I filmed for YouTube privately of you two communicating on the radio.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I've had a lot of very special moments on the mountain with my wife. Those are probably the most sacred moments of my life. And so I could resonate, like hearing you two, and you're like, hey, baby, thank you so much. Like, I'm so proud of you. And he's beating himself up. And you're like nothing but reassuring. Like, you want to teach people how to like make their marriage like last the distance. Put them in that kind of position. Because there's no position where like he's exhausted, he's beat down, she's been sitting there watching that emotional ride. We're all sitting in the cold. You know, I've spent those kind of moments with my wife, and that's what like is that bond. And that's like one of the most special moments that you live with that emotion. And you're feeling it.
Yeah, I'm so glad you captured that. Yeah.
Like just as much as you're.
Well, and you guys kept radioing me going, what's the update? And I'm just like, I didn't even want to talk to you guys.
We're on pins and needles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, I'm working on a film right now, and it's a bear hunt, and there's something about watching bears because they're so human-like, and seeing them behave, and you know, you've got the drop on them. They don't know you're there. We're close, and you're seeing him, and he's just like giant, but he's like hanging from a tree, eating this, and he's just like chilling, and you just start to feel bad the longer you watch him that you're going to end him.
Yeah.
You know, and there's this feeling of like, this is what I came for, and we're going to eat this meat. And at the same time, you're just like, is this right? Should I be doing this? Like, what am I doing here? And then there is this sort of, and I know enough about just life that it does make sense. It's either that or I'm over here eating animals in a pen.
Yeah, buying beef from the store, right?
Yeah, I know enough, but it's still enough. It's still harder than and the older I get, like you said, Tito, the more that I feel that. I didn't feel it so much when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from a lot of hunters, you know, as they got older. They just.
But I think that's why it's almost like a respect. You respect that animal so much more, especially where you're like at that point where, you know, you're not around the mountain chasing 2 points or basket bucks or anything anymore, you know, just the first bear that you ever shoot. Now you're in that cat and mouse game. It's the ultimate game of chess, right? And now you're trying to harvest that animal. It's like the most ultimate form of respect.
Yeah.
You know, it's like gladiators in an arena kind of thing. Like it's the most ultimate form of respect.
Yeah. For me, I look at it and go, for people that aren't hunters, it's hard to describe to them of like, I love mule deer and elk. I love this wildlife so much. I dedicate money and time and effort to whatever it may be to help them grow and survive. But yet every season I want to kill just one so bad, you know, and it's hard for them to realize that, you know, a lot of these people that are against it and, you know, they don't contribute their time, effort, and money into their habitat or whatever it may be. But for me, it's like, yeah, I want to go out there and see, you know, thousands of deer on the landscape. Mule deer is like my favorite. That's my thing. But every year I want to kill just one of them, you know?
I hear you.
So,
yeah.
Well, I think, I want to do this again. We should pop down here on another Monday night.
Yeah, let's do it. There's still a lot.
There's a lot of things I still want to talk about.
Yeah. I think it would be kind of cool. Maybe we'll, you know, some of the comments, there was a lot of people that had questions.
It'd be fun to read through those.
Yeah, I think we should read through them and some of those people that had some comments or questions on there, like address some of those and more behind the scenes stuff of what happened there. Cause the film was amazing. I mean, the edit, everything, but man, it's really interesting. I know for me, at least watching it at the movie theater, that, you know, what you created for the average audience to consume and watch was amazing. But emotionally inside, I'm going, man, there was so much more to that I felt that I think we all felt a little different that night watching it because we never got to watch the film before then. So I think it would be really cool to kind of rehash that and some of the people that had some questions or comments on there, maybe address those. Yeah.
It was a once in a lifetime tagging. Like you have that experience of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Like the camaraderie, everything, even Brad, like that was one of the first times I had ever got to hang with Brad and go, he was a stud, man.
Yes.
And he just gelled and meshed right in and we're a tough group to gel with, I guess.
There's fewer people that you want by your side than like a Brad Hunt.
Yep.
On a hunt. He's just lampers. They're just rock, reliable, skilled, talented, you know.
Yeah.
And you guys have that with each other, you know, having hunted together for so long. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's keep making good memories together and sharing hunts. Like, one of us draws a hunt, we're all in, man. So it's been a lot of fun.
I know, Thalissa, you loved being in front of the camera. It was like your thing. And so, actually, I was very proud of you letting Brad, like, it looked like he was trying to be you know, he's worried about pushing you a little too hard. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I want to pick your guys' brain a little more on the next one because we talked about this on the edit that we're not showing, or the one that I didn't push record, so or there was some glitch. Still on. I gotta check. But
Take 3.
PTSD here. But yeah, I wanna talk about the equipment you use. And we talked about that a little bit before, but also what set this hunt up for success in a way that others haven't. So if they get this tag in the future,
For sure.
what are the recipes for success? Like, let's say, because Mark made a lot of phone calls with guys that had been boots on the ground and had that hunt before. Let's say they're calling you. That's what I want to dive in next time. They call Jeremiah Plier and say, Jay, I want to get a sheep too.
How do I do
I'll
this?
never get this tag
Yeah.
again. What do I do?
Yeah.
Call Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say, call my sheep guide over here.
Yeah, you call Mark.
Your sheep caller?
Yeah,
And
my
a sheep
sheep
guide.
caller. Yeah, I think anybody that draws a tag and just invites Mark to go, he's in. He'll drop whatever's going on to go on another sheep hunt.
Mark,
I
are
think-
you a
yeah.
sheep addict?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The amount of hours of OnX on that unit alone is.
Are you
will
going to
make
get a tag
throw up.
anytime soon?
Somebody's got to get lucky.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like,
Keep saying that.
Yeah.
I've been lucky already. Let's just keep it going.
He's pretty much in the waiting pool for everything in Utah, except for,
It's
we just,
the worst place to be in the world. Man.
Yeah.
You look at your stat sheet and there's no points.
yep.
Then you look at history and what you've already pulled, though.
Yeah.
true.
Pretty
Yeah.
nice.
I might have a sheep tag. I think I do.
You're going on a sheep hunt?
We'll talk about it. Yeah.
All right.
Pretty sure.
Yeah. I'll be
Pretty
there.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
These
right.
boys won't miss me. We're good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, folks. If you got any comments or questions, especially for the next time we sit down, drop them in the comment section, and we'll read. We try to read everything down there, and then we'll talk about it on the next one. But thanks for tuning in, and stay gritty.